Scorpio doesn't start wars, but if you threaten what they protect, they'll finish it. You may think you've had arguments before, slammed a door, sent a nasty text, given the silent treatment, but you haven't really fought until you've fought with a Scorpio. Because when you challenge a Scorpio, you're not arguing with a person, you're arguing with a force. A Scorpio remembers what you forgot. They hear what you didn't say. They feel what you tried to bury. And when it all comes crashing down, they will never forget the moment your energy shifted. But here's the truth no one tells you. Some signs were never meant to sit in peace with Scorpio, not because they're evil, not because they're bad, but because the way they move disrespects the silence Scorpio lives in. There are 3 signs that consistently awaken the darkest, most reactive parts of Scorpio, not on purpose, but simply because they were built differently. It's like oil and water, fire and gasoline, steel and thunder. The tension is magnetic until it's explosive. And if you're one of those signs, you've felt it. That chill in the air when a Scorpio starts to retreat, that one stare they give you when they've seen enough. And worst of all, that moment when they go completely quiet. Because Scorpio's silence, it isn't peace, it's preparation. This is not a video for entertainment. This is a deep decoding of emotional warfare between cosmic forces. And if you've ever loved a Scorpio, if you've ever lost one, if you've ever pushed one too far, you already know what I'm talking about. So sit back. Because by the end of this video, you won't just know the 3 signs who always fight with Scorpio. You'll understand why. You'll understand how to survive it. And most of all, you'll understand what happens when Scorpio has had enough. Let's begin with the first sign. A royal soul, a performer, a lion. But in Scorpio's world, sometimes the sun shines too brightly, and it burns everything in its path. We begin with Leo. Sign number 1, Leo versus Scorpio. When the crown meets the sting, there's something electric when a Leo and a Scorpio walk into the same room. Everyone else feels it. It's not spoken. It's sensed. 2 powerful energies circling each other. At first, it looks like respect. A Leo stands tall, confident, magnetic. Scorpio watches from the shadows, calculating, observing. And then, the friction begins. The clash of kings and queens. Leo rules the sun. They were born to shine, to be loved, to be seen. They walk into a room and expect the world to respond. Applause, admiration, attention. But Scorpio doesn't perform. They observe, they feel, and most of all, they test. Not with questions, but with silence, with eyes that don't blink, with emotional intensity that Leo can't quite read, and that's the beginning of the problem. Why they fight: Leo wants loyalty, Scorpio demands devotion. Leo leads with passion, Scorpio leads with precision. Leo seeks admiration, Scorpio seeks soul bonding. But here's where it breaks down: Leo wants to be worshipped, Scorpio wants to be understood. And these are not the same thing. To Leo, Scorpio may seem distant, critical, unimpressed. To Scorpio, Leo may seem loud, dramatic, attention-hungry. Leo gets offended, Scorpio gets suspicious. Leo raises their voice, Scorpio lowers their tone. Leo roars, Scorpio stings. A story. From the shadows, let me tell you a story. A true one, because this plays out across cities, across decades, across hearts. A woman named Danielle, a Leo, met a man named Marcus, a Scorpio. From the start, sparks flew. She was drawn to his mystery. He was drawn to her light. But Danielle, like most Leos, loved openly, expressively. She gave compliments, hugs, Instagram posts, grand romantic gestures. And Marcus didn't respond the way she expected. He didn't post her back. He didn't say "I love you" out loud in front of people. He didn't clap when she walked into the room like her ex used to. And that's when it began. The doubt, the frustration, the war beneath the smiles. She accused him of being cold. He told her she was addicted to attention. She said, "You don't make me feel special." He said, "You don't make me feel safe." That's when it hit her. They weren't fighting about the present. They were fighting about their core needs. What's really going on? Leo fears being invisible. Scorpio fears being exposed. Leo fears rejection. Scorpio fears betrayal. Leo says, "See me." Scorpio says, "Don't lie to me." Leo wants warmth. Scorpio wants truth. And when neither one bends, it's not just a clash, it's a cosmic implosion. What Leo never understands about Scorpio. Leo thinks Scorpio is hiding because they're ashamed, but Scorpio hides because they're protecting something sacred. To Scorpio, love is not performance. Love is protection, loyalty, psychic connection, not a show, not applause. So when Leo demands a bigger gesture, Scorpio withdraws. Not because they don't care, but because they feel their inner world being invaded. And when Scorpio senses invasion, they defend. What Scorpio doesn't understand about Leo? Scorpio often thinks Leo is shallow, but Leo's warmth is real. Their generosity is authentic. They give with their whole heart, but if that heart isn't mirrored, they burn with resentment. Scorpio thinks Leo wants control, but Leo wants partnership, celebration, presence. If Scorpio shuts them out too long, Leo will walk, not because they don't care anymore, but because they feel they were never truly let in. How it ends, or evolves. In many cases, this pairing ends with one final blowout. A moment of shouting from Leo, a moment of icy silence from Scorpio, and then a door that closes forever. But in the rarest of cases, when Leo learns to honor Scorpio's silence without feeling invisible, and Scorpio learns to validate Leo's fire without feeling overwhelmed, something powerful is born. A relationship forged in fire and rebirth, a loyalty that's not just loud, but eternal. But only if both evolve, and only if both see the other, not as a threat, but as a mirror. Life lesson number 1, the lion and the scorpion. Sometimes love isn't about being seen. Sometimes it's about seeing the parts of another person that no one else ever took the time to look at. Leo teaches Scorpio how to feel warmth again. Scorpio teaches Leo that silence doesn't always mean absence. But if they refuse to learn, they become each other's battlefield. Two rulers with no shared kingdom, just ruins. Next, we move to a very different battlefield. Not fire versus water, but freedom versus fusion. Scorpio's second most intense conflict is not with someone loud, but someone detached, emotionally distant, unpredictable. Next up is Aquarius. Sign number 2, Aquarius versus Scorpio. When freedom feels like betrayal, there's a kind of silence that doesn't comfort Scorpio. It doesn't feel sacred. It feels empty, like someone left the room but didn't have the courage to close the door. That's what Aquarius can feel like to a Scorpio. Not cruel, not angry, just gone. The coldest war. Scorpio is water, still on the surface, storming underneath. They crave connection that's soul-deep, silent, telepathic. Aquarius is air, fast-moving, always above, always moving toward the future, toward vision, toward the collective. They don't cling, they don't dwell, they detach. And when these two energies meet, it's not loud, it's not dramatic, it's distant. Scorpio feels like they're talking to a ghost, and Aquarius feels like they're being caged. Why they fight to Aquarius? Scorpio's emotional intensity feels like pressure. They feel studied, watched, measured, like they're being pulled into something deeper than they agreed to. To Scorpio, Aquarius's detachment feels like disrespect. They feel ignored, unimportant, unchosen, like they're sharing something sacred with someone who keeps looking at the clock. Aquarius says, relax, it's not that deep. Scorpio says, if it's not deep, why are we even here? A story in disconnection. Let me tell you about Kendra and Elijah. Kendra is a Scorpio woman, deep, sensual, intuitive. Elijah is an Aquarius man, brilliant, creative, always chasing something just out of reach. When they met, Kendra was mesmerized by his mind. He could talk about anything: quantum physics, the future of AI, the rise of collective consciousness. And he was drawn to her quiet intensity, her eyes that saw through him, her depth. But a few months in, something started to break, not in an explosion, but in small absences. He forgot her birthday, not because he didn't care, but because he was working on a concept that took over his week. He didn't check in when she went silent for days. He assumed she needed space. But Scorpio never goes silent unless they're dying inside. And then came the moment she asked, "Do you feel what I feel?" And he paused too long. That pause was the betrayal. What's really going on? Aquarius doesn't want to be owned. Scorpio doesn't want to feel disposable. Aquarius sees love as a choice renewed every day. Scorpio sees love as a bond etched in soul, unbreakable even through fire. Aquarius says, "I need space." Scorpio hears, "I need a way out." And when Aquarius tries to escape conflict by becoming distant, Scorpio doesn't chase. They disappear. Not for a day, not for a week, forever. What Aquarius never understands about Scorpio: Aquarius thinks Scorpio is overreacting, too emotional, too dramatic, too obsessed with things that can't be seen. But Scorpio feels every shift in tone, every inconsistency in truth, every energy drop when someone lies and smiles anyway. To Scorpio, the soul doesn't lie. And when someone pretends to love but pulls away in energy, Scorpio sees that as a spiritual violation. You may not say you're leaving, but your energy already did. What Scorpio doesn't understand about Aquarius. Scorpio thinks Aquarius is playing games, but Aquarius just doesn't operate in the emotional realm the same way. They love with their mind first. They give freedom as a gift, not as a punishment. And when Scorpio demands too much intensity, Aquarius starts to feel smothered, like they're being drowned in a lake they never asked to swim in. They flee, not out of cruelty, but out of survival. How it ends, or transcends, most Scorpio-Aquarius pairings end quietly. There's rarely a blow-up, just a slow pulling away, a fade, a ghosting. And a Scorpio left wondering, did I imagine everything? But when they both do the work, Scorpio learns to offer depth without demanding it. Aquarius learns to stay present even when it feels uncomfortable. Then something rare is born, a union of the soul and the sky, love that doesn't suffocate, freedom that still feels safe. But it's rare, because most people don't evolve that far. They leave instead of transforming. Life lesson number 2. The visionary and the depth. Not everyone who loves you will speak your language. Some will love in logic, some in silence, some in detachment. Scorpio must learn detachment isn't always betrayal, and Aquarius must learn depth isn't always danger. But if neither learns, they become a warning to others. Not a love story, but a lesson. Next, we come to the third sign, a sign that confuses Scorpio more than any other, not because they're cold, but because they're too charming. They talk fast, they shift gears, they never stop moving. And to a Scorpio, that's the most dangerous thing of all. Next up, Gemini. Sign number 3, Gemini versus Scorpio. When words become weapons, they say words can't hurt you. But when spoken by a Gemini to a Scorpio, words don't just hurt, they haunt. Because for Scorpio, trust isn't built on what you say, it's built on what you consistently mean. And Gemini means something different tomorrow, The chameleon versus the oracle. Gemini is air-quick witty, always in motion. They thrive in change, in conversation, in stimulation. They are the messenger, the multitasker, the brilliant spark that moves from one idea to the next with dazzling speed. Scorpio is water, still intense and emotionally exacting. They don't need many words. They need the right ones. Said with intention, said with truth. When these two connect, it's magical. At first, the Gemini makes the Scorpio laugh. Really laugh. Something they forgot how to do. And Scorpio gives the Gemini something they never expected: depth. A reason to stay. But here's the cosmic catch: Gemini plays with possibility. Scorpio plays for keeps. Why they fight: Gemini flirts. Scorpio commits. Gemini dances in and out of emotions. Scorpio dives. Gemini speaks in riddles. Scorpio reads between lines and doesn't like what they find. Gemini changes their mind. Scorpio never forgets. A story of misalignment. Let me tell you about Sam and Rachel. Sam was a Gemini, fun, magnetic, spontaneous. Rachel, a Scorpio, introspective, reserved, loyal. They met at a dinner party. She was drawn to his humor, his charm, his lightness. He loved her mystery, said she made him feel grounded for once. For a while it worked, until one night Sam texted another girl. He said it meant nothing. It was just talking, no flirting, just catching up. Rachel didn't yell, didn't scream. She just asked one question. Did you feel the need to hide it? He said no. She said, then why didn't you tell me? He shrugged. It wasn't important. But to Scorpio, every omission is a signal. And that's when she shut down, not out of anger, out of heartbreak. Because she realized she was falling into something Gemini never intended to build. What's really going on? Gemini fears boredom. Scorpio fears betrayal. Gemini escapes through distraction. Scorpio investigates through silence. Gemini says, you're too intense. Scorpio hears, you can't handle me. Gemini says, let's just keep things light. Scorpio hears, you don't take me seriously. And when Gemini makes a joke at the wrong time, Scorpio doesn't laugh. They mark it. They remember it. They carry it like a secret wound. What Gemini never understands about Scorpio: Gemini thinks Scorpio is too much, too deep, too dramatic, too heavy. But Scorpio isn't trying to control it, they're trying to connect. And when Scorpio loves, they don't do it halfway. They study you. They feel for your patterns. They try to understand what even you hide from yourself. But when that's met with sarcasm or evasiveness, they shut down. Because to them, you've made sacred soil feel foolish. What Scorpio doesn't understand about Gemini: Scorpio thinks Gemini is a manipulator, but Gemini just moves fast. They speak before they fully feel. They test the wind every day just to know where they stand. They don't mean to be dishonest, but they value possibility over permanence. And permanence is what Scorpio bleeds for. When Scorpio starts pressing for answers, Gemini feels cornered, and they escape. Not because they don't care, but because the weight of Scorpio's love feels like being asked to carry someone else's soul before they've even figured out their own. How it ends or awakens. Most of the time, this pairing ends in confusion. Gemini doesn't understand what they did wrong. Scorpio doesn't explain. They just leave. Or worse, they stay but become cold. And Gemini, who once had endless words, suddenly has none left that matter. But sometimes, just sometimes, when Gemini learns to slow down, to choose their words with care, to speak with truth, not just charm, and when Scorpio learns to release the grip, to let curiosity sit beside commitment, they can become something rare. Intellect meeting instinct. Mind dancing with mystery. Life lesson number 3, the mirror and the maze. Not every mystery needs solving, and not every word needs weight. Gemini must learn depth is not danger, it's invitation. Scorpio must learn. Not every shift in tone means betrayal. Sometimes it's just air moving. But if they don't learn, they become a story. Both will tell about the one that got away, but neither will admit why. And now we reach the end, not just of conflicts, but of clarity. In the final chapter, we'll take everything we've uncovered, the fire of Leo, the distance of Aquarius, the dance of Gemini, and we'll turn it into the truth that Scorpio has known all along, that some souls were not meant to understand them, only to teach them who they truly are. Conclusion: the sacred lesson. Scorpio must learn. Scorpio walks through life with a rare burden, the burden of seeing too much, of feeling what others suppress, of noticing the shift in someone's energy long before they admit it with words. And because of that, Scorpio learns early, not everyone is safe, not every smile is sincere, not every I love you comes from the soul. So they armor up, they build fortresses around their hearts, they test, they wait, they watch, and they become misunderstood. They're called intense, controlling, paranoid, too much. But here's what few ever realize: Scorpio doesn't want control. They want truth. They don't want chaos. They want consistency. They don't want to fight. They want to feel safe enough not to. What these three signs teach Scorpio. Leo teaches Scorpio that not every need for love is shallow. Sometimes people just want to be seen. Aquarius teaches Scorpio that distance isn't always abandonment. Sometimes people retreat to preserve their own soul. Gemini teaches Scorpio that inconsistency isn't always betrayal. Sometimes people are still learning who they are. And Scorpio, you teach them all that love without depth is just decoration, that silence can speak louder than words, and that intuition isn't suspicion, it's survival. But there's one final lesson. For Scorpio alone, you will not always be understood. Your depth will scare some, your loyalty will confuse others, and your silence will be misread as apathy. But don't dilute your waters just because some can't swim. Not every soul deserves access to your temple. Not every sign can meet you where you are, and that's not their fault or yours. Some people were meant to test your patience, some were meant to test your truth, and some were meant to break your heart so you'd finally learn how to guard it, not with walls, but with wisdom. So the next time you find yourself fighting, pause, ask not, why are they hurting me? But what part of me still needs healing? Because, Scorpio, your greatest revenge is not silence, it's transformation. Your power was never in the sting, it was always in the rebirth. Final words. If you're a Scorpio watching this right now, know this. You are not broken. You are not too much. You are not cold. You are the fire that purifies, the water that heals, the mirror that forces people to face themselves. Some will love you, some will fear you, and some will leave you. But the ones who stay, they'll never be the same, because no one touches a Scorpio and leaves unchanged. And that is your sacred gift, call to action. If this spoke to your Scorpio soul, if you've ever felt misunderstood, mistreated, or like your intensity was too much for this world, drop a comment below and tell me they couldn't handle me, and that's okay. Let's talk about it. And if you haven't already, subscribe to the Path to Buddha Wisdom, because here your depth is not only welcomed, it's honored.